So I think, Romil, let's get started. I'm seeing that we have got the live going, uh, and we would wait for some inputs from our teams, but I think we are all good to go.
Right.
So let's do it. So everyone here, it's another time for Facebook Live with Fastened Up. This time we switched over to Facebook for a couple of reasons. One of them is that we also want to look at the people who are following us on Facebook, and also the fact that we have an entirely different person out here who goes by the name Delhi Romal. That's another question that I would like to ask him while we interact with him. But Romil Bartwal is an engineer from IIT KGP by qualification, a motivational speaker, adventurer at heart. In fact, I have actually known him for a few years now. First, I knew him as a runner. Then he has been out there conquering the Mount Everest. In fact, I remember that Romil, we ran the Boston Marathon together in 2017.
Right.
And from that time, he has gone on to do multiple things and inspires a lot of people. And he's also one person who is, I've seen, at least from my experience, that very friendly, very helpful to a lot of people, guides people. I've seen him pacing a lot of marathons and half marathons. He's also a half Ironman. He has done different things. So I will let Romil speak about it. Welcome, Romil. We are absolutely thrilled to have you in this Facebook Live.
Thank you so much, Veera. It's a great pleasure to be here. And brand like Fastened Up, thank you so much for inviting me. It's really an honor to be here. And thanks for a wonderful introduction you gave. I mean, that summarizes most of the things. We've been meeting on and off, sometimes on phone calls, sometimes on social media. Very less times we have met. In fact, on the Boston Marathon also, we couldn't meet because you were so far ahead and we couldn't meet at that time, that's for sure. But then sweet memories, whenever we interacted, it's been pure fun, and you've always been so helpful in whatever ways we have asked your help. So it's great to be here. Thank you so much for inviting.
Great, Romil. So let's get on to the discussion that we have here. So first primary question I ask everyone is, how is the lockdown treating you as a person?
Okay, so lockdown is kind of good for me in the sense that last 1 year or before, because of my profession, I was not able to spend a lot of family time. This 1.5, 2 months has been really good that way, because we've been able to do a lot of things which otherwise we were not able to do. Apart from that, it's a new learning, and the whole dynamics of the environment is changing, be it Zoom calls, be it video calls, and those kind of stuff. We are back to Mahabharata times on TV as well. So it's good fun. I mean, I'm making the most out of it.
Great. So I just want to get this out of my way first. How did this name of Delhi Romal come? Because since the time I have known, I actually don't know what your real name was at that point of time. So how did that come about?
So Delhi Rommel came because Rommel is used to be a field marshal in the German army.
Okay.
So a lot of people, they used to have this doubt: are you Rommel or are you Rommel? So that was the Rommel part. And Delhi came because I was doing my KGP, and I was expecting to move to Delhi after my KGP MTech. Mm-hmm. So I thought that would make some sense, and then I just gave a nickname. And then that was the time I got introduced to Facebook. So I thought Delhi Rommel, just a weird thought came, I posted, and then that's how it all originated. No other reason behind that.
So thanks for explaining that. So Romil, in fact, I was talking to you before this, and last May, in fact, incidentally, I was in Uttarakhand, and I also was hearing a lot of discussion that time on crowding in Mount Everest at that point of time. Right. And I learned today that exact date was around May for you, when you actually climbed the Mount Everest.
Exactly.
So how was the whole experience? Can you describe it in a few words or a few minutes for us?
Right. So thing is, Everest, or for that matter, any expedition, I used to feel that till the time you are on the trek part of it, it's all fun. You really enjoyed surroundings. Everything is going on your favor. But the
Mhm.
moment you start difficult climbs, let's say in the death zone, camp 3, camp 4, those kind of things, so it's extremely tough and generally not a very happy situation. But then since you're prepared hard, you want to give your best, and then there's so many expectations from people. You yourself have got that thing of proving yourself. Everybody waits for a time once they have something wherein they have to give 100%. So this is one of those times wherein you give your 100%. This was the time to prove. So it was a life changing experience, if I may say. And then it was a great learning, because last year we realized there were a lot of deaths, and while returning we realized it was not a good situation, seeing a lot of people. There were 11 people who died on Everest last year.
Yeah.
So all the euphoria dies down once you see that people generally are not very careful with the training and all, and that's the reason they suffer most of the times.
Yeah.
So it was a
So,
good feeling altogether.
so how many people actually went up to the Everest with you?
So my team was a team of 26
Mhm.
people. Out of those, 20 were at the base camp,
Mhm.
for kind of managing the team controls and all from base camp, and 14 were the climbers. And incidentally, ours was the biggest team as one team who climbed the summit, because last year there were a lot of people who died. Frostbites and all happen every time, but then ours was the only expedition which had all 14 people summiting to the top, and without a scratch, everybody was safe. So that was the great part. Best part was that.
Fantastic. And who was the team lead at that point of time when you climbed the Mount Everest?
So I was the team leader for my team. So that's why there were a lot of focus on training. And at times, my team was not very happy with the kind of training we were doing, because we had to be ruthless. You don't want to
Yeah.
come back with somebody losing their limbs or losing their life. So we said no, training has to be 100%, so that we are very confident once we are there on the summit. So it really helped.
But Romil, I think I have to admit that it really drives goosebumps on me right now listening to you, because as a team lead, you rightly said you have the responsibility for the entire team climbing all the way up, summiting it, and coming down successfully, which is great. Uh, but Romil, I keep hearing a lot of people wanting to climb the Mount Everest, right? At
Right.
least till last year. I mean, last year things changed a little bit, but I mean, even now, the fascination with climbing the Mount Everest remains. Apart from the money aspect, which I will ask you, uh, what are the elements which one has to go through to climb the Mount Everest, to be ready for Mount Everest?
Right. So Everest is about life and death. You know about training like anyone else who is into running. So
Mhm.
we understand the importance of training. And once it is about life and death, it's the most important thing. So training is one aspect we have to be very careful about. Then there are a lot of other aspects, be it like selecting a Sherpa agency which is going to guide you. Because
Sure.
without Sherpas, it's almost impossible for anyone to climb.
Mhm,
Then
mhm.
what kind of diet you're going to be having it there. Then how do you manage altitude sickness,
Sure.
because every second person is going to have a acute mountain sickness sort of feelings over there. Then the kit which you're going to wear, what kind of clothing, what kind of shoes. So there are a lot of variables which are involved at those altitudes. Plus there's a lot of isolation, because you're there for 60 days, not able to interact with many people. So a lot of mental games do come into play. So if your training is good, you've conditioned yourself well, then you'll be successful in most cases.
Mhm. So I'm just trying to think that typically for a lot of people who are hearing and we are runners, you have this marathon index called, 16 week of training, and you are
Right.
there boom for a full marathon. Is there
Right.
is there a norm for climbing the Mount Everest?
Depends upon the kind of preparation. Unfortunately, I have to say this, that Indians are the ones who take shortcuts,
Okay.
and we are the only ones who have fancy for Everest. If
Mm-hmm.
you see foreigners, they don't have this kind of a fancy for Everest. That's the reason most of the Everest climbers, like last year also, most of the people were Indians.
Mm-hmm.
There were about 72 Indians who had gone for the summit attempt last year, which
Mm-hmm.
is not a good sign, because most of the casualties were Indians again.
Sure.
Those people who had to be evacuated and other things. And what we realize is the kind of timelines which foreigners follow, they take about 6 to 7 years,
Sure.
and then only they think of going for Everest. In our case, unfortunately, there are few people who would go in 1 or 2 years and then they feel they are ready, which is not correct. So if you have followed a proper plan, you have taken proper guidance and coaching, then it is still fine.
Right.
But then this unfortunately does not happen.
That's nice. So you need to have a concrete plan before you actually think about climbing the Mount Everest.
Absolutely.
One other interesting thing I've always read when climbing the Mount Everest, and even recently I read somewhere that there was a climber, Mike Horn, who summited the Mount Everest. He has gone to the North Pole, etc. He was actually saying that it's probably far more easier to do the Mount Everest with oxygen. And if you're summiting the Mount Everest without oxygen, that's a totally different ball game. So, what are your thoughts on it for a layman to understand?
See, it's very, very difficult to explain this to a layman because sitting in Delhi, it's altogether a different thing. So, to give you a perspective, only 7 Indians have been able to reach the top without oxygen.
Wow!
And out of those 7 Indians, 6 have been from the army. And our team, which had gone in 2017, 4 of them were did without oxygen.
Wow!
This time also we were planning to send few of our boys. Luckily, they did not go till the top, because had they gone without oxygen and then getting trapped in a traffic jam would mean death in those circumstances. So these people were sensible enough to take the oxygen and use it rather than going without oxygen till the top, because otherwise, sure shot, they would have died.
That puts in a lot of perspective, because if you say that only 7 people have summited the Mount Everest from India without oxygen, that speaks volumes about the difficulty of summiting Mount Everest.
Right? Absolutely.
The other question that I would want to ask you is, everyone thinks only about climbing to the top and think that having done it, end of the matter. But I've read quite a bit that even coming back is also a task or an activity. What is the secret there?
No, in fact, that reminds me, once we were briefing the Prime Minister after our return. So he asked us the same thing, that how was it, how was the experience? And frankly speaking, if you see the statistics, 1/3 of the deaths, they take place once a person is coming back. Because at that level, it's like once you do a marathon, after 32 is the time, once you start, once you make out the difference who is the one who is really trained or not.
Sure.
So once you reach the top, your target is achieved. You have achieved the target. You feel okay, you've done it, then you keep your guard down. And that's why we also had these terms of reference that, coming back is more important. Going to the summit or not happening, it's secondary. So you've got to make a two-way journey rather than thinking that you will reach the top and that's the end of it. And that was the very reason, the moment I reached the top, I was after my teammates that, no, we're not going to spend more time there. We're going to spend 3 to 5 minutes. Then we're going to rush back, because coming back to the base camp is more important. Alive.
I mean, that talks a lot about the leadership out there. Kudos to you.
Thanks.
So last question on Mount Everest specifically. What's the approximate cost for an Indian citizen if he has to climb Mount Everest, for somebody who is not working with the forces, or
Right. So generally, Everest expenditure starts from 25 lakhs. And there's no upper limit. The kind of facilities you can ask for, the sky is the limit. So we have had interaction with people who have paid more than 1 crore last year for going there. So, but then it starts from 25 lakhs. It's always advisable to spend some money. If you have, then only you should go, because if you go with the cheapest agency, then you compromise on a lot of factors,
Sure.
So you should be going with a well-established agency, then only it's advisable.
Romil, one thing that I've always kind of shared with people is that I know, I don't know how far it is true, but you probably used the energy gels during your climb. Where does energy gels fit in? I've always seen marathoners use it, maybe tennis players use it. How do you fit in an energy gel, that to a Fasten Up energy gel on your climb?
Right. So in fact, I had a video also. I had shared it. That was a small one, because we thought we would take a video on top, but then that was not possible. It couldn't have happened. So how it happened was, for Everest, you don't want to take any chances, you know.
Sure.
So you want to, I remember last moment I spoke to Tribhuvan, I asked him to send BCA and then energy gels. We tried energy gels once we were doing our treks and our during trainings also, because we thought, you know, if it helps even to a certain extent, we gave energy gels to all our teammates. We
Right.
said, everybody keep trying. If you think it benefits, we're going to use it. Even if it is going to help 1%, 2%, we're not going to take any chances. So that's how there were few people who really were pumped up. They really liked it. And that's the reason we issued these energy gels as mandatory things at the base camp. We said, all those who feel they're going to benefit, please use it.
Okay.
Right. And then we gave them reasons. Okay, take a lot of water along with this,
Sure.
because, you know, it's everybody knows the importance.
Right.
So that's why we used it. I mean, at some point of time, once you feel you're totally exhausted, you take a gel and then you start pushing ahead. So we really had a good time.
No, great. Great. Thanks for the insights, Romil. Now let me take you back to where we all know you from, running. So you have been a very adept runner. You have, in fact, paced. You have actually done the Boston. You have done some of the ultra marathons successfully. Incredible results. Those. Are you? I mean, is there anything that a runner sees when they transition to being a climber or mountaineering? Does a runner, by being a runner, help in that activity?
Right. So that's a very good question, because surely it helps as far as the climbing is concerned, but then you cannot base your training considering that you've been running, so you'll be good at mountaineering as well. So what generally happens is you get a good aerobic system is already developed, so it really helps you in climbing. But then mistake what we did during our first expedition was, like, I was doing an expedition in J&K in Leh area. It's called Stoke Kangri. So I was too overconfident. You know, I thought since I've been into ultra, so Stoke is going to be pretty easy. Only to realize, you know, there's no expedition which is easy. It's just that you have got to give your 100% every time. But then once we did Stoke, then I was mentally well prepared that what was going to come in the subsequent expeditions, and that's how we've been trained. We trained accordingly, so it really helps a lot.
So basically, it helps being a runner. It does help you to be a climber, right?
Surely.
That's interesting. Now you talked about team leadership, and you said how important it is to be a good leader, especially for these climbs.
Absolutely.
So now, I don't think a lot of people know the concept of a team leader when it comes to climbing, and also how do you deal with situations and with people with different thoughts. I know your background, but broadly for normal people, we all have things of our choice. We want to do things our way, right? So how do you deal with leadership and challenges when it comes to mountaineering or in any other aspect?
Right. For Everest, if I may say, difference between a team leader and a normal team member, I mean, it's a lot of difference on a scale. Let's say if a hard work of a member is 5 out of 10, then a team leader is 10 out of 10, because the moment you're done with the activity for the day, you've got to plan the next activity, what kind of food everybody is going to take. And then I had so much of experience being with my team for the past 1 year, that seeing their cadence and seeing the way they are moving ahead of me, I used to be the last out of those 20 members, and I could make out, you know, this guy is not, it's not his day. And very surely within the next 10 or 20 minutes, he used to tell me, sir, I'm going to go back, I'm not feeling well. So that kind of thing will only come once you've involved so much with the team, and that comes automatically with the kind of profession I am in. So the camaraderie and these kind of factors which we speak about automatically comes once you're there with the team, eating the same food, staying in the same tent. And then if you're there 24 hours with them, you've got to, I mean, this comes automatically with the team itself.
Oh, fantastic. So for the viewers, we are inviting questions on the Fastened Up page. So if anyone has questions, you can actually put in your questions there, or I am sure we'll be able to answer that. So next question, Romil, is that so now you have actually done a lot of things in your life. I would say variety of things. I I mean, when you go back as a 15-year-old, like 18-year-old, what were your goals? And was life according to your expectations at that point of time? Even climbing the Mount Everest, doing a Boston Marathon. I mean, I'm sure you have so many other experiences which we probably would not want to touch on. But how has been that?
Once I was 15-year-old, I never dreamt of Mount Everest, or I'd never even heard about Boston. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So had I planned anything like this, I mean, nowhere close to what I have been able to do it. I've been extremely lucky. I tell everyone, I've been extremely lucky. God has been very, very kind to me. So what I want to say is that I would never have dreamt this much had I got this opportunity that time. So I've been getting more than what I ever thought I would get in life. So I'm so happy for that.
Oh, fantastic. I think a lot of, I mean, you have really kind of pushed the envelope, I would say, in different activities and still doing so, which is great. Now let's switch over to running again. You have had a tremendous experience with runners, Hyderabad runners for sure. You have faced those marathons, I would say. What has been your experience with Indian runners? Are there things that you think they could do better when it comes to running? Because now you have an outside in perspective also, right? Some good practices that they as amateurs we could take. Are there any thoughts on that?
Sure. See, main problem I see with the runners right from the time I started long distance till now is that, we tend to go for shortcuts.
Okay.
We want instant results. Like if I've started running a 5K now or a 10K now, I want to do well. I want to start doing a sub 4 in 1 year also, and that to a full marathon. Not realizing, it takes time.
Right.
I was lucky. Maybe I would have done the same, but then I was lucky that because of my background, I had good base by the time I started long distance running, which doesn't happen. So if you interact with other people who have accomplished a lot into running, they say the same thing. There's no point doing a full marathon once you are a 15-year-old or a 18-year-old. So it takes time. You build up, and there's no hurry at all. We see people doing a 5K today and comrades by next year, and then you're not seen them running at all after that, which is very sad, because the aim is to run as long as possible. If you want to be an Olympian, then it's a different thing. If you want to be that competitive that you want to go all out, then it's a different thing. But that generally is not the case with amateur runners. It's good to take your time, build up, and then graduate to different timings or distance, whatever.
So basically, no shortcuts. Take your time. Life, there's no hurry in life.
Exactly. You enjoy the process rather than the final timing, what you're going to get. So it doesn't make sense. And then other thing we've seen is, shifting our training plans, picking up a plan now, then you see someone else taking some other plan. Oh, he's improved so much. Let me try that. Not sticking to one disciplined approach. That's another thing which is not a right sign.
The familiar stories, I think I can relate to it. So would be a lot of viewers who are seeing this. I'm taking two questions which has come up from Facebook. Divik Kanpal, who is actually asking you, what is the diet and the routine you follow? Maybe you can talk about the diet you followed when you were doing the Everest, or that would be the best thing to do just before doing a training program.
Right. So for Everest, it's a different thing compared to what the running thing is concerned, because Everest, you don't feel like eating at all. That's why what generally happens is that people lose about 20% of weight by the time they finish Everest.
But I'm talking about not the climb itself, but maybe 1-2 months prior to climbing the Everest. What was your diet and what was the routine that you followed?
Right. For Everest training, it was very, very rigorous. We did a lot of climbing. For almost a year, we were in high altitudes in Leh, Ladakh, Somoridi, those kind of areas. So the diet was mostly home-based food.
Okay.
Because we were in camps, and most of the time we used to have one huge truck, and then truck filled up with all tentage, all the boys, everybody inside. Then we used to go to a certain place, pitch our tents, cook there. And then that was the thing. And then we used to train a lot of climbing kind of a thing, a lot of running also interspersed in between. And the diet was mostly home-based food, whatever is available naturally, we used to have that. That was basically the diet.
Sure. The other question which he wanted to ask was, when did you actually decide to climb the Mount Everest?
See, in my case, it was different because I was part of a team and I was given this responsibility as part of the training of our team.
Okay. Mhm.
So, in fact, if you have touched it, 22nd of May 2018, it was decided that, okay, Romil, you're going to lead the team. And the same day, 22nd of May 2019, we were there on top of the Everest. So, exactly 1 year it took from the moment it was conceived to the moment it was finished. But then that was only after spending 25 years in the profession I am in.
Yeah, that's
It's not
great.
just 1 year.
That's great precision, Romil.
Yeah,
Kudos
just
to you.
happened.
Yeah. Another question which we would want to take is from Veera Lingala. He's asking, I mean, I think I know the answer, but you can actually go ahead and say Boston versus Everest, which is a bigger thing for you, and also what is different between these two?
Okay, personally, in my case, what had happened was Boston was something I always wanted to do the moment I started running. You know, everybody who starts running, especially marathons, has an aim to run Boston sometime in life.
Sure.
So that was one thing. Everest was never in my chain of thoughts. It was just I got this opportunity and I grabbed it.
Okay.
But then I would say that I got Everest because I ran the Boston. So it was one piece behind the other. People realized, I was doing well. So I got this opportunity. Had Boston not happened, maybe I wouldn't have got the opportunity for Everest as well.
That's a very beautiful way of putting it, Romil. Very humble, modest, as you always are. But in fact, I was also thinking that you would probably be the only guy in the entire world, maybe, who has done both the Boston and Mount Everest. If not the only one, maybe a few.
Maybe I've thought about it sometime, but then never dwelled too much about it. A lot of other things as well.
Great. So we'll quickly go on to a small section that we have, which is a rapid fire round, and then we will see if you have any questions. We have a little bit more time left for this interaction. We always like to keep it short and sweet rather than having a long discussion. Any other bigger challenges than Mount Everest? Quick answer.
Life.
Life.
Every other day is a challenge.
Especially what we are facing now.
Exactly. Very true.
Team sport or individual sport?
Team sport, definitely. Teamwork, I mean, different feel altogether.
Yeah. Do you still have a running goal?
Running goal, yeah. Sub 3.
Okay.
Sub 3 full.
Yeah. And I always know that whenever you set a goal, you always achieve it. So I'm looking forward to that happening.
Hope so. Thanks so much.
If God were to give you a superpower, what would that be?
Nothing. I think I've got more than I thought, but then it's enough. Nothing else. I'm happy.
Great answer, Romil. So I don't know whether you watch OTT these days. There's so much of mobile television happening. Do you watch Netflix, Amazon, Hotstar, or something else? And what is that which interests you?
Netflix, yes. Recently, I watched Osho. I liked it a lot. So keeps happening something or the other.
That's fantastic. So we have actually come to the end of our questions, in fact. But I want to take a couple of more questions which has come in. One question is obviously related to the running community. I mean, what are the things that you have loved about the community where you ran quite a bit, the Hyderabad runners?
See, one thing I'm yet to decipher the reason behind it, but then I found all runners are good people. I don't know the reason behind it. I don't know. There's no logic also, but then I've never found any runner who have let me down. So all runners I find are absolutely amazing people. But then that's how I've developed, and all those whom I know, I've really liked running with them, enjoying them. Be it a fast runner, slow runner, that immaterial. It doesn't matter at all. It's only that once you start running, you start enjoying. And with running, the best part is you get instant results, instant gratification. The moment you finish your run, while running also, you feel so good about it. So that kind of feeling is pretty good. I mean, you can't compare with anything else.
That's great. So then, the other question that I've got is, we have always heard that there are multiple routes to climbing the Mount Everest. So can you throw light on which is the toughest and why?
There are in all total about 16 routes, they say,
Mhm.
which are there for the Everest.
Okay.
But then out of 16, not many climb except for the two routes. One is from the Nepalese side, the South Pole we call it. The other
Mhm.
one is from the Chinese side.
Okay.
And I've only climbed from the south side, but then I've met people who have climbed from both the sides, and then what I've come to know is that you cannot compare both of them. Both of them have got their different set of challenges,
Mhm.
so it will be unreasonable to compare both of them.
Okay, that's a very fair diplomatic answer.
No, that's a fact.
So, Romil, thank you so much. It's been wonderful chatting with you. I think we can actually go on and on if I have to really drill down to each of the questions and get details from you. But unfortunately, that's the time that we have. So, thank you so much. I mean, it's amazing whatever you are doing right now. Romil himself does a lot of talks. Many of them inspiring a lot of people. I think yes, you have really started something online as well now, where you are actually talking to multiple people. All the best with all of that, and I'm sure our paths will cross someday on the marathon site, where
Sure.
we will run probably together, and I will take inspiration from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Veera, for inviting me, and thanks also for Fast and Up for all the support you've always had. Thank you so much. Really enjoyed.
Thank you, Roman. Bye bye. See you. Bye.
See you.